Hello everybody, I'm TychoCelchuuu and this is a Company of Heroes 2 Noobcast. Yes, Company Heroes 2, not the beta, we're into the full game. I've mostly been playing rather than casting, especially because there's not a ton of stuff to cast, but I have this sent in from a fan, Trace Renegade versus Kudos Dude, and I'm pretty sure Kudos Dude is the fan. And if not, well, whatever, we'll Noobcast both of them. So, obviously Germans versus Soviets. Not going to see much else. And we are on the Pryat winter map, so two things to note. Number one, it's sort of like nighttime, right? Look, there's the moon. So pretty, beautiful. And second, there is a special feature of the Pryat map now. You have these vehicle repair facilities and these watchtowers, or just one watchtower, I suppose. So on this map, if you capture this, it'll repair vehicles around this point. And if you capture this, you'll get vision around the point, although I guess it's still blocked by true sight. You'd think, like, you know, if you have a guy up in the watchtower, then he can see over stuff, but not really. Let's look at the build orders. 2 pioneers right off the bat, so not a... well, 2 pioneers isn't completely unusual, so we have one pioneer up here. Oh, one issue with the night and the snow is very hard to see, especially austere units like this. They just blend in perfectly with the trees and stuff. Look at that. That's just... come on. So 2 pioneers. So most people, I think, usually don't go with 2 pios just because the pios are not so tremendous at fighting, and the grenadiers are good at fighting, and the machine guns are good at fighting, so they just build with their first one, and then they head off. But, of course, the upside to getting 2 pios, they will be able to cap more of the map. If you go to quick Tier 1, link to Mechanized Company to get Panzer Grenadiers and maybe Scout Cars and Half-Tracks, then people will often go like a bunch of pioneers because you'll have to wait a while till you get your tier 1, because you have to research tier 1 right here, so you need the fuel and stuff. So it'll take a little while, and so often they'll get 2 or 3 pioneers. I think 3 is about the norm. And but since this guy's going tier 0 and tier -1 and getting a HMG team and grenadier out, there's no need for the pios. So I don't know, watchtower nice to have. We'll turn on true sight, or turn on fog of war to see what he shall see in a moment. Ta-da! So it gives you a pretty good sight, and it's nice for seeing when your opponent's coming in on the middle. This is more useful to get as the Soviets, right? Because, yes, now he's hopping inside. This is more useful to get as the Soviets because seeing a machine gun coming early is very good, because then you can start setting up your flank. Notice this Molotov not doing anything. It's been thrown sort of out here, I suppose. So it's very good to see a machine gun coming and be able to flank it, but obviously it's still good to have true sight on anybody. So I guess the Molotov was actually thrown in the building, but it didn't work so well. Interesting. So here we have our first MG42 up, and he's doing the right thing, I think, setting it up. Oh, a second Molotov. Whew. When you see the Molotov coming in, you want to hop out ASAP, despite it seeming to be not very great against this. You want to leave. So now he's going to suppress these people and probably pin them. Should actually think about moving these grenadiers away and waiting, because they're probably just going to get forced off anyways, and then you can chase them once they're running. What the issue is that they're going to keep shooting while they're suppressed, so you probably don't want to take damage. Oh, don't need to retreat them, by the way. So when you have a low health squad like this on the front lines, and you've just pushed off an enemy troop, cap whatever is like right here, right? And then you can retreat, unless it's really, really crucial for you to get them like back on the field as soon as possible or anything like that. What you want to do is get the most bang for your buck out of your units and have as little downtime as possible. And if you can capture something and then retreat, that's more efficient than retreating and then having to walk all the way back to the front to capture it, because, you know, by the time you get up here, maybe you'll have to fight or something. So try and get as much done with your low health units as possible before you have to retreat them back. The other bonus to doing that, and also if you're going to retreat, reinforce. The other bonus to keeping them out on the field for as long as possible is that instead of spending the manpower on reinforcing these people, he could be spending the manpower on like teching up or something, right? You see he's got the fuel, but right now he doesn't have the 200 manpower required to get to tier 1. So had he not retreated those grenadiers as early, he could have spent that manpower here, and then later when they retreated he could reinforce them. So you want to be managing your manpower, have it in the most efficient things that you can at each particular time. And so since you're eventually going to want to tech up, and you're not going to be spending the fuel on anything else because you've went tier 0 and there's nothing to spend fuel on here, you want to buy this thing as soon as you have sort of the manpower free. And when do you have the manpower free? Well, the less people you have on their way back to your base who need to reinforce soon, the more manpower you're going to have free. So now what did he buy? Oh, another Grenadier squad. Okay. He was floating 300, so when you make the choice to buy another Grenadier squad, try and make that choice before you end up floating enough to buy him, right? It's 240 to buy a Grenadier squad, so once you reach 240 is when you want to be buying it. Buying things as fast as possible is another part of using your resources most efficiently. But had he not retreated this squad earlier, he probably could have had the time to research this. Tier 1 research is pretty fast. All the tiers are sort of fast to research, but yeah, he would have had the time and the manpower to research this. He's not going to have anything else to spend the fuel on, so that would have been nice. Plus, he would have had this victory point for a little longer. Nice pushing off these. Engineers, not 100% sure about keeping these people in the watchtower the entire time. I guess they can see, but they can't shoot. That's too far for them. Interesting. I feel like if they were out here, they could probably almost reach that. Maybe it's too far. But, yeah, I don't know. Since once your opponent sees your MG get in the watchtower, which I'm pretty sure his opponent saw, then you have to worry that they're going to end up flanking you. We are on the winter version of this map, so all of this ice stuff is traversable. You can't run under the bridge, unfortunately, so it's actually not going to be a huge help. But the Soviets can send somebody up here and someone up here, so it's not too tough for them to get a flank in on the watchtower. And you want to be constantly repositioning your weapon crew so that they're not able to flank you. Were he up against a better Soviet player who wasn't just idling here with his conscripts, losing these conscripts here, if he were up against a better Soviet player, he probably would have been flanked by now with his machine gun, flanked and driven off, and you don't want that to happen. You want your machine gun to be constantly on the field and driving off your opponent and not getting flanked. So moving your people is a way to not get flanked. Always keep an eye out for Molotovs. When someone throws a Molotov you want to dodge, you'll hear an audio alert whenever your opponent is about to throw a Molotov. They'll say something like, "Grenade!" So just move. Yeah, see? They can shoot all the way over here, so it's just like a distance of like 3 feet behind those logs or something. So always dodge the Molotov. Backwards is the worst way to dodge a Molotov because you're not going to fire behind you as you move backwards. Best is to dodge laterally, probably. The chances of you wanting to run towards a conscript are low unless you have Panzer Grenadiers. Although if you do, then by all means, run towards them when they throw a Molotov. But it's surprising that they got the Molotov off in the first place because you should have been running towards them in the first place. So these conscripts are idle and cold. So they need to head either up here or down here, huddle next to the fire for a few seconds. And, so too many people here, I think. You want to be spread out on the map as much as possible when you have a machine gun that's going to give you perfect area denial. So unless you think your opponent's coming in for a flank on the machine gun, and you frankly can see quite far into the fog of war, so you know they're not doing that. Unless your opponent's doing that, then it's time to spread out. And especially during a blizzard, it's going to be very difficult for them to move in on your machine gun in a watchtower, because you're going to see them coming like 1,000 years before they see you. If we swap over to the Soviets and we look at their line of sight, you can't see a guy. Well, partially it's the tree's fault, but in the blizzard, look, you can only see this far, so the chances of you sneaking up on this machine gun are not great. These guys are freezing again, bad Soviets. The chances of somebody sneaking up on your machine gun in a blizzard go way up in a normal game, but in a watchtower they go way, way down. And I guess the Soviet went this... Oh, he went this doctor. We'll talk about this soon. But, so yeah, during a blizzard, if you've got the watchtower, the chances of you being flanked goes way, way down, which means you don't need these infantry hanging around here to stop any flank or something. They can spread out and capture the map. A blizzard is a perfect time to capture the map because it's going to take your opponent a while to trudge through the snow and react to whatever point you start capturing. And chances are you'll get to the point unmolested because it's hard for anybody to see you in the blizzard. So I always use the blizzards as a chance to move out, spread out on the map, get to wherever I'm going safely, and just to have a breather from the fighting, really. And also use it to set up ambushes on weapon teams that I want to take out, but obviously this one's going to be hard to take out, so that's not happening. So we have tech up to tier... Whoops, we're Soviets. We have tech up to tier 2, and we have the tier 2 being built, support armor core. You don't need to cap with 2 units, you only need to cap with 1, so spread like... when I'm in a situation like this, you want your combat capable unit as far towards the enemy as you can. So like in this case, you want the Grenadiers probably to be the first ones to encounter the enemy. It's kind of a tough one because the Pioneers are going to want to fight closer up with their flamethrower, and the Grenadiers are going to fight from long range, so there's an argument to be made for leading with the Pios. But I think you'd rather have the damage go in on the Grenadiers so that the Pios can run into the fight and be like, hey guys, we're here with our flamethrower now, let's roast some people, and they're full health when the fight starts for them. Whereas if you go in with the Pioneers first, they're going to get shot up, and then even if you bring in the Grenadiers to do long-range damage, probably your opponent's just going to focus the Pios. But if you lead with the Grenadiers, they'll focus the Grenadiers, then the Pios show up, and they have to make the choice, do I stop shooting the Grenadiers and shoot the bigger threat, which is the Pios, or do I keep shooting the Grenadiers because I've already got the damage in on them? So, given that, I would probably end up leading a fight with the Grenadiers, which means instead of capping with 2 people here, he would want these Grenadiers to probably go over to this fuel point. That is, I think, the next most important thing to capture after the VP. And in fact, I think it's more important to capture than the VP. We're going to get a nice flank in on this. First good thing the Soviet player's done all game. So I would lead with the Grenadiers and probably head for the fuel. Or if he ends up transitioning to capturing this and this, then the Pioneers would go back here and the Grenadiers would go over here. Always think about when you're spreading out your units in what order you want your opponent to be encountering the units. And that stuff. So Soviets had maybe a good idea by buying this mortar to try and push the opponent off. The biggest issues the Soviet player has is just unit usage. He's getting forced out from fights because he's leaving units idle and not bringing things to bear that he can, or he's sort of not, like he's done this I feel like 8 times. He's run past the opponent, and running past the opponent's no good because you're not going to be firing behind you once you hit the halfway point, or once you hit the point at which you begin running past instead of towards. Also, there's a really bad Molotov when units are spread out like this in red cover. They have any direction they can move, so a Molotov is very unlikely to catch them unless they're AFK or something, so maybe don't do that. And these conscripts just getting roasted. So the Soviet player, his big issues are micro, just picking his engagements right, getting his people into the right sort of fights. Again, these people are blobbed up. That's no good. I love how these people are just sort of crouched there waiting for something to repair. They're just like, yeah, we're going to meditate on the important things in life. Oh man, they're all dead. They just die when you capture them. That's extremely bizarre, considering they changed it so that weapon teams, the 3rd man or the 6th man, no longer suicides. So in the original Company Heroes, if I killed 2 people on your AT gun, the 3rd guy would just be like, whoop, I'm out, and he'd die. In Company Heroes 2, they retreat. And so now you capture this thing, what happens to the repair-y people? Do they say like, well, fuck this, we're leaving? Do they say, well, I guess we're switching sides? No, they drink the Kool-Aid. That's interesting. So we have a fast Ostwind out, floating a bunch of manpower, so don't float the manpower. A fast Ostwind out, leading with, blobbing too much. So try and keep your units active, that's the big thing. All units should be moving all the time. Unless you have a really good reason for hanging out somewhere. I guess these are dead from the mortar. It's got 3 kills, but... well, maybe this is the MG42. Whatever it is. You want to keep your units moving all the time. These Grenadiers need to just go over here. These Pioneers, it's good that they're finally going up over there. But the only way to do that is just practice, practice, practice. Get good at the game. Get used to... So... if you've ever watched Day 9's tips about StarCraft 2, anything that applies to any sort of real-time strategy game is like that. You want to sort of have a loop going in your mind where you're constantly checking everything. You go up in the upper right, you check your units, you think about, is everybody doing something? Idle units will actually have a little clock down the bottom right normally, so when this Austrian stops moving in a moment... Nope, it's moving. Okay, well, sorry. Here, there we go. These guys... Okay, well, it's actually pretty buggy. But sometimes idle units will have a little stopwatch over here. That's not really a good way to know if your units are idle. What you really want to do is just like, keep an eye on your units in the upper right and keep an eye on the mini-map and look for dots that aren't moving. These guys or something. Whenever you get a notification, like point captured over here, that means your unit's done. And so you need to give your unit another order. A good way to avoid having to do this is to queue up orders, right? You select this Grenadier and then you hold down shift and right click here and then right click here and right click here and right click here and here and here and here. So if you give people like 8 hotkeys or 8 waypoints, right, by holding down shift, they're not going to like do them all. They're probably going to run into an enemy like halfway through the 3rd one or something. But you ensure that you're never going to have an idle unit, right? Because even if you forget about that unit 100%, you're like, you have selective Alzheimer's and you completely forget the unit exists, they're going to keep doing stuff if you give them a bunch of hotkeys, or a bunch of waypoints. So I would waypoint all your units whenever you're capping to avoid stuff like this hanging out. So that's a way. So always be cycling through your units, always be paying attention to notifications down on the minimap. Then after you've sort of, like every few seconds after you've checked your units, go down, check your resources, make sure you're not floating anything. This guy's floating a shit ton of resources, so he would want to spend those once he looks down. Go down to the minimap, check to make sure nothing's happening there, then back to the main screen, whatever you're doing. Ooh, that's painful. Don't drive over ice with vehicles. You'll sink. So what happened there was the T-34 missed the Ostwind and hit the water right under it. Or hit the ice right under it, and that broke the ice, and the Ostwind was dead. This came from the Ostwind driving over the ice, so the Ostwind drove over here and then back, and so that weakened the ice enough for one T-34 shot to kill it. It's really funny. It's like extremely funny, so I'm sort of glad it's in the game because of that. It's also sort of a bullshit mechanic, because, you know, he just lost his most expensive unit to a lucky hit from the T-34. Whatever, I don't know, I haven't made up my mind about this. There's very little ice in 1v1 maps, and 1v1's all I give a shit about, so, I don't know, I'm not ready to call it one way or the other. Molotov, get out. Get out. Don't steal barn, very good. So, yeah, every few seconds, check up in the upper right, see if your units are doing anything. Check down in the mini-map, see what's going on. Check over down in your resources, see if you're floating anything, and then back to whatever you're doing. And if you just keep that loop going constantly... Oh, here's that clock I was talking about. See, they're back at base. And I think it's a clock. I don't know what the fuck it is. It's a thing. It's a little circle thing. It looks like a clock. What time is it on that clock? Looks like 12... like 25 or 12:20. It's either 12:20 or 2, 3, 4. It's like, or like 2. Forget it. Okay, forget it. It's a thing. The UI in this game is just horrible. The Soviet player is horrible. The German player is lost in Ostwind. This machine gun, okay, whatever. This will hold the bottom, I guess, for you. A good place to stick a machine gun down here is behind this truck. It's green cover. And it'll catch people trying to come across the thing. Your arc will be big enough to basically get everybody trying to come across this way. They'll have to come up this way to flank you. Whereas here, you're not even going to be able to shoot people who are trying to take the fuel, which is by far the most important thing down there. So when you have an MG down here, you got to think about what are you trying to protect, and really what you're trying to protect is the fuel. So finally, floating a little less, he's bought a Stug, having teched up to tier... just kidding, still at tier 2, right. Having teched up bought a Stug, I would think about maybe buying the pistol. Oh, I promised I was talking about the doctrine, wouldn't I? Yep. So, a Soviet player is using this doctrine, is this the this is not the E3 doctrine. Well, this is the thing. I hear this isn't in the game anymore, or it disappeared, or maybe it's bugged or something. This is one of the things you get for pre-ordering. You can also buy it for $2.99 in the store. Fuck you, Relic. So, the radio intercept is pretty sweet. We'll see sort of on the left whenever the German player builds something, the Soviet's going to know about it. So he knows the Stug is coming. And if he wanted, he could be building like an AT gun. In fact, he's got, hello, an AT gun. Although why he's building a peanut battalion right now is beyond me. Oh, don't move weapon teams like this, like a Pak-40, out into a blizzard, alone, right? Because you're never going to see what's coming. And you might just end up walking into this and then losing your Pak-40. So the Soviet player, if he's any good, would recrew this. Maybe even merge it with this conscript squad. Keep these around until these guys retreat and then come back. And then retreat these guys. And then that would be pretty sweet. You'd have a 6-man weapon team, Pak-40 right there. Why not? Or at least kill it with the... So either grab it or kill it. Whenever you decrew a gun like this, grab it or kill it. Make a choice. Shit or get off the pot. I heard you can just right-click on things now. It totally doesn't look like that, but people told me you can just right-click and attack. So if that's true, click on your tank and right-click and attack it. If it's not true, as I suspect it may be untrue, click on the attack button and then click on the... maybe not. Click on the attack button and click on the thing. Soviet player did neither. Also loses his T-34 because he's terrible at micro. And Stug from the front, not so bad against the T-34, right? If we look at the cost, the T-34 is only $240.95, whereas the Stug cost a pretty penny at $280. What the fuck? I guess the T-34 did get more expensive relative to the Stug. So Stugs obviously does have downsides. It can't fire backwards or anything. So T-34s can still circle strafe and take it out. Plus they can ram. But really it's in a front on front. It's going to be typically the Stug who wins. So kill it or steal it when you kill an AT gun. And make that decision before your opponent comes back. Blizzard conditions subsiding. The blizzard is gone. Wonderful. Wunderbar. So how's the mortar doing? 3 kills. Yep, so that's what it was at like 20 minutes ago. Mortars are tough to... Ooh. Again, don't move these things out without protection or infantry support. These German infantry or German weapon teams just get fucked over in this game, right? They're 3-man squads instead of the 6-man like the Soviets, so they're fairly weak, and you don't want to be just going around gallivanting. Another big issue, when you have a tank that's hurt like this, you don't want to lead with your pioneers. You want to save your pioneers around to repair the tank, right? So before you move out with the pioneers, probably just quick repair the Stug. A repaired Stug is a happy Stug. It'll do more for you. This guy probably needs to repair because he's at 1 man. There's very little of 1 man. Oh, he's grenading. Okay. Acceptable. But now you have to get out because the mortar. Boom! Is he? Yeah, he lost a guy from there. I don't know. The watchtower is surprisingly resilient considering most grenade goes in on this. Maybe not. Totally worth it. You're very, very unlikely to decrew a gun like this in the open with a rifle grenade. The places where a rifle grenade is good at decrewing an enemy weapon crew is when they're all in cover. I lost a 6-man full health Maxim team. It got completely insta-gib annihilated by a rifle grenade when it was in green cover. And I suspect that's mostly because it bunches up, not because cover increases explosive damage, although I feel like maybe that was a thing in Company Heroes, I can't remember. But certainly cover causes them to bunch up, and that's what does the real damage. These people are about as spread out as they're going to get. This point is making them bunch up a bit, but still a rough grenade, unlikely to wipe out enough people for that to have been worth it, and you're not going to get your Stug in here. So stop trying, you know. You can maybe go on the boom. That was a thing. Maybe could have sunk them if they had been slightly further back. So the mortar's dead, so now you can move in with your Panzer Grenadiers and take out the AT gun. That's gonna be really good, right? Because then your Stug will have free reign. There's nothing really stopping you. There's this penal battalion, but... Well, here's the problem. 4-man weapon crew, right? 4 out of 6, chances are it'll last too long. So if anything, you don't want to be fighting at this... what is this doing? Okay, so don't do that. There's my Noobcast tip of the day from TychoCelchuuu. Company Heroes, Jackcaster. This teleported. And I think he's lost. Yeah, there's the Panzergren squad dead too to a barrage from this thing. Good move on the Soviets barraging so close. Ballsy. And wow, hero pioneers. Heroes of the Reich. You will get an Iron Cross. You will get an Iron Cross. You will. Whatever, I can't do the accent. So the reason you don't want your Panzer Grenadiers to hang out here in a fight with the Peanut Battalion is because the Peanut Battalion has SVT-40s. One dude has the flamethrower, but the rest have SVT-40s, and those are really good at long and medium range. Those are pretty sweet rifles, and your Panzer Grenadiers have STG-44s. What is going... No, it's a satchel charge! Get the fuck out! God damn. Don't let your tanks be satchel charged. That's got a 3-second timer, and they have to throw it. So you can see it happening. And you can even crush them when they're doing that. So that's bad. It'll kill your Stugs. It's pretty powerful. He's got a Panzer IV now, but no reason to lose that Stug against just infantry. So please babysit your tanks. When you hear your opponent's throwing a grenade and you know they have a penal battalion near your tank, that should be like a wah, 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 wah-oh, 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 what am I doing? What am I doing? And it should get you to move out of there. So now down a Panzergren, down an MG42, down a Pak-40, and down a Stug. Our German player lifts himself up. Soviet player likewise licking his wounds, down a mortar, down a ZIS. And we have a doctrine chosen by the Germans. None of the German doctrines are worth shit, but this will get him. His grenadiers will get G43s if he wants, so they'll be better. This map is chock full of munitions. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4 munitions points, which in the original Company Heroes wouldn't have been so impressive, but in Company Heroes 2's fucked up resource system, it means you're going to get 43 munitions income just by holding half of the munitions on the map. So that gives you a shit ton. It's letting him buy a Stuka dive bomb right here, or it's a close air support. This is the strafing run thing. We'll see how good this thing is. Yeah, no, I feel like it's bugged. It doesn't do anything. These guys were just like, hey, Stuka's shooting us, alright. Well, not really worried about that. We have airstrike incoming, I think. Maybe Soviet player targeted one. Yeah, we have this in smoke, so we'll have to wait. It's plane versus plane. Oh, the Soviets have a gun that does something. You know, choose up a few infantry guys and slight damage on the Panzer IV. So we have, it would be sweet if they dogfighted, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be sweet? I think that would be legitimately sweet. You call in a plane, counter your opponent's plane. No, the real counter for planes is this thing, this little machine gun on the top of this tank. If you just keep your Panzer IV stationary, it's probably going to shoot down the opponent's IL-2. So, oh, something's fucking blowing up. Hey, look, it's shooting at it. It's shooting at it. Oh, the IL-2 made it out. But the thing is, planes make so many passes in Company Heroes 2, and the pintle-mounted machine gun is so good as an anti-aircraft. If you keep it stationary and your Panzer IV is not busy doing other shit, then chances are you'll shoot it down. Same thing goes for the Stug and the Panther. So that's your German anti-aircraft. The Austrian, not a good anti-aircraft thing, despite being actually built in real life for anti-aircraft purposes. That's not what I'd go for. So, there's ripple effects, right? Butterfly effect stuff. If you screw up stuff earlier in the game, you're going to have trouble late in the game. But at this point in the game, you would probably want to have enough infantry, and he sort of does have enough infantry to be sending them all around. This sort of foray up into this VP is a nice goal, but what you want, especially since the rivers are frozen and they're easy to traverse, you want to be heading up north, capturing this point, capturing this point, capturing this point. These conscripts really need to micro into this fire, which is right here, or even better yet, they need to be doing something useful. Soviet player busy doing, oh no, he's just left his people here after building. Oh no, don't do that. This is not StarCraft 2 where the Zerg have to use up a builder unit every time they build something, okay? These are not drones that turn into the buildings. Once you build the building, they can walk away. Okay, it's like an SCV in StarCraft 2. Think of your engineers as SCVs, or even better as mules, with guns. So don't, geez, that's bad. And then these people still need to move. They've lost 2 people to the cold, completely unnecessary. This guy is about to die. We can capture this in full live action glory. This is horrific. Jesus Christ, Relic, I'm gonna have nightmares. Thank you for that. And now he's in the fire. So, this is bombarding. What's it bombarding? All these people. So these people should move. Once you see the, oh, it stopped. We missed it. It looks like a football, a glowing football flying in from this on a sort of curved trajectory. When you see a long, slow, curved trajectory football coming from the ZIS, rather than a short, flat, fast football, then you know it's bombarding you with the bombard thing, so you want to get out of there. Don't do this. I guess we're in a blizzard. Yeah, we're in a blizzard, it looks like. I don't know. It's tough to tell. Everything's fucking hard to see, but I guess this looks like a blizzard to me. So moving out in a blizzard is dangerous if you're going into enemy territory, like right there. Whoa, we have some... oh, this is a light artillery barrage. So this is not... they actually got some... Whoa, that's some pretty sweet kills because his opponent was dumb enough to retreat right back through it, even though he was clear of it. This is mostly for area denial because it falls for a while. You saw like 3 sort of separate barrage sort of things. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage. You're going to have to get really lucky to wipe a squad with it. But it's good for area denial. Force a retreat from the opponent or force him not to move in some things. So we have an Austrian being built. Again, Panzer IV is Austrian Stugs. They're all good choices. The Austrian will take out enemy T-34s, and obviously so will the Stug and the Panzer IV. So if your opponent's gone Tier 3, then go for those. If your opponent's gone Tier 4, the Su-85, then you're probably going to want the Panzer IV, because the Austrian's not going to be able to do quite enough damage against the Su-85. The Stug is not going to be able to take on the Su-85. The Su-85's probably going to kill the Stug. And so what you need is the Panzer IV to be able to circle strafe the Stug. And so since he has seen no evidence of teching from his opponent, really, he's been building whatever he wants, and that I can endorse. Maybe if you see no evidence of teching, you assume they're going Tier 4, right? Because by the time you've made it to Tier, confusingly named 2, by the time you've made it to the Stug, Austrian, Panzer IV building, your opponent has... They've either made it to T-34s, right, because it's, I think, cheaper for them to make it to T-34s, or they're saving up to make it to Su-85. So if you haven't seen evidence of the teching, by the time you've got the choice between these 3 vehicles, probably get the Panzer IV, because sooner or later you're going to see an Su-85 on the field to try and counter you. This is obviously contingent on, like, you know, maybe they're spending their fuel on something else or something, but that's, like, extremely unlikely. Company Heroes 2 has very few teching choices. It basically has no teching choices. There's no interesting teching paths, very few interesting strategies. It's just, are they going Tier 3 or Tier 4? Because they're inevitably going those. There's nothing else for them to sink their fuel into. They can just spam scout cars the rest of their life, but that's stupid. So there's nothing else for them to sink their fuel into. This is not an interesting dynamic game like Company Heroes 1, so if you don't see the T-34s coming out, or anything from the T-34s, see, there's the long long, slow football. Direct hit on the MG. Don't move directly into that. So please get better at spotting these sort of artillery barrages. They're going to be, the closer they are, the tighter the grouping's going to be. So once you see that, just move. But yeah, if you don't see T-34s coming out from your opponent, they're probably going Su-85s. This Soviet is actually terrible, so he's just saved up for an IS-2, despite actually having the Su-85 building. So he saved up for an IS-2, which he is refusing to use at this point. So, but if this were a legit player, you should guess Su-85s, and so in this case, the Austrian would be a bad choice. You'd probably want another Panzer IV, given all that. So, German, on the sheer horrificness of the Soviet player, has pulled a win out of this, despite having bad unit preservation. Driving straight into this, perhaps not what I would recommend. He's maybe going to try and crush some people with Panzer IV, or try and circle strafe. I don't know. This is just asking to eat a lot of AT grenades. Luckily, your opponent's terrible. He's not throwing any AT grenades, so your engine is damaged, but you didn't keep up the circle strafe enough. So when you do this, you need to keep circle strafe in the IS-2. It does have a turret, so it's a little harder than normal, but the turret's very slow, the tank is very slow. It should be no trouble at all to circle strafe the Panzer IV, as long as you're not getting AT grenades. So in a hypothetical perfect world where this wasn't surrounded by infantry, the Panzer IV, what he would have wanted to do is drive around in circles on the ISU and get the hits in. And then, sure, the Austrian can be bait or something. Actually, probably not. If your opponent's any good, and wow, he immediately recruits, then there. See, I told you fucking planes get shot down by the pintle-mounted machine guns. That was the pintle-mounted machine gun on the IS-2 shooting down the Stuka. Huh. Huh, awesome. I hate how planes don't leave, like, huge corpses anymore. In the original Company Heroes, they would leave, like, a big fucking plane embedded in the ground. Now it's just like, oh, look, it's a part. You could take cover behind those motherfuckers, and they would, like, kill things coming down. Actually, that might be a good change, because they would kill a lot of stuff coming down. One strategy some people would use they would buy a recon run if their opponent had a lot of AA, and position the recon run such that they would probably get shot down and then crash into stuff. So that was pretty funny, kamikaze recon runs. Okay, so in terms of German, have a teching thing sort of in your mind before you go in. You floated some resources every once in a while that you didn't have to do. Make better use of your units, spread them around the map and use them more often. Much better unit preservation, especially identifying those ZIS artillery strikes coming in, not sending your MG42s and PaK 40s out into the wilderness to get butt fucked. Think about maybe repositioning the MG42 a bit against a better player. Things probably would have gone worse for you. MG42 down this house wasn't as useful as it might have been. And yeah, so unit preservation and tagging are the big things for the Soviet player. Please keep your units moving all the time. They need to be doing stuff 100% of the time. And like, no, don't leave 2 engineer squads in your base. No, don't even ever leave 1. So don't do that. And then when you tech up to something, build stuff from it, like an Su-85 or something from that. So I hope you enjoyed this Noobcast. Lots of good tips for the noobs and the non-noobs alike. I hope I will see you sometime in Company Heroes 2 and we can, like, make out or something.